Hello, fellow Americans. I am Juan. Freedom. We all love it. We all want it. But what happens when someone else's freedom gets in the way of yours? Whose freedom wins? Today, students will define rights and responsibilities, explain the ways in which the two interact, and, in the PDF, discuss their limitations. In the last unit, we went in depth on the different levels of government: federal, state, and local. But what's the point of knowledge if you're not going to use it? First, let's start with the rights. Rights are split into two categories: constitutional rights and civil rights. Constitutional rights provide protection from government oppression and help to create civil rights. Civil rights are essentially the role of all people to engage in democratic practices, enjoy personal privacy, have access to justice, and be treated publicly with dignity and respect by governments, individuals, and businesses. Essentially, the right to equal opportunity. One of the most basic things people think about when they think about our country, America, is democracy, our ability to vote, a key civil right. Beyond our ability to vote, the First and Second Amendments enumerate other democratic practices that make up our basic constitutional rights. These include freedom of speech, religion, assembly, the right to petition, as well as the right to bear arms. Civic associations help keep these rights in place. Word alert! Civic associations are groups of citizens who have voluntarily joined together for collective action on community affairs. In America, we are also supposed to have a right to personal privacy. Privacy rights can be found in the Third, Fourth, and Ninth Amendments. And according to these, the government must respect your privacy. It is also a constitutional right of yours to seek and to have access to justice. Rights such as a right to a speedy and fair trial, a jury of your peers, and due process under the law are called your legal rights. Finally, we all want a little bit of that RESPECT, respect. This means everyone should be able to have equal access both to and in society, which reveals the importance of constitutional rights in promoting civil rights. Civil rights attempt to require private businesses and individuals to respect and allow equal opportunity. To promote the public good, we all need to respect one another despite our differences. In this way, civil rights involve civic responsibilities. Our civic responsibilities are the norms and behaviors that we must engage in order to secure the public good, and thus help secure civil rights. These are things like engaging in democratic practices, treating others respectfully, conducting ourselves in public thoughtfully, tolerating other viewpoints and personalities, and fulfilling our obligations. The outcome of maintaining this responsibility is the creation of a pluralistic society in which citizens' ideas, beliefs, and values can be considered openly and publicly, without fear of violence or oppression. Whereas some responsibilities are optional, obligations are required. Failure to fulfill our obligations could result in negative consequences. Some key obligations we share include following the law, paying taxes, and participating in jury duty. Time to show what you know. What are rights? How are constitutional rights different from civil rights? How do responsibilities promote and secure civil rights? Please provide an example of an obligation. One of the most consistent conflicts that arises between rights and responsibilities comes in the freedom of expression and the freedom of assembly. Everyone loves free speech. But what about when someone else is exercising the right to free speech in a way we don't like? And what happens if crucial debates move from publicly shared spaces of the real world to privately owned spaces of the digital world? Although the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was designed to extend the protection of civil rights to non-state actors, meaning private businesses, your civil right to engage in general is not guaranteed in privately owned spaces in every instance. Civil rights impact constitutional rights. Issues that require government intervention change as society changes. Our responsibility is to tolerate and respect the rights of others to have and express views, even when they directly oppose our own. However, we are also responsible for not engaging in or accepting hate speech that devalues people and incites violence. You see, the First Amendment guarantees people the right to express and promote their views. And to make this constitutional right a civil right, the right to think and express those thoughts, we must take tolerance as a serious responsibility. However difficult it may be, our responsibility is to uphold the values of free expression even in the face of intolerance. Easier said than done. But why is this exercise in restraint so important? Well, history has shown us that censoring or silencing people's thoughts and opinions just doesn't work, at least not for long. Aside from that reality, by attempting to remove thoughts forcibly through government coercion or by social cancellation or deplatforming one another, we can become ignorant to the vast spectrum of viewpoints that exist. Not only that, but censorship, whether social or governmental, can also spark a continuous cycle in which oppositional ideas are silenced, leaving only one viewpoint. In these scenarios, debate is chilled and authoritarianism can more easily take a hold. So what should happen when our rights are challenged not by each other, but by society at large or our own government? Well, people who took part in the civil rights movement would say to practice civil disobedience. What's that, you might ask? Word alert! Civil disobedience is the refusal to comply with certain laws or to pay taxes and fines as a peaceful form of political protest. That's right. Each of us has a responsibility to obey the law, but we also have the right to follow our conscience in order to improve America, especially when normal democratic channels have been shut down by either public or private institutions. For example, Rosa Parks famously refused to move to the back of a public bus in order to demonstrate the injustice of discriminatory laws. Citizens in the 60s also protested private institutions as well, with sit-ins at restaurants across the South as one example. The goal was to end the discriminatory policy of restaurant owners who denied service to customers based on their race. The revolution today must continue through nonviolent democratic practices, not violent upheavals. We have the right to assemble, to express ourselves, and to protest. Through civil disobedience, our rights come into conflict with our responsibility to obey all the laws. Rights and responsibilities do not only conflict, they also overlap. Let's look at some examples. First, many rights are in fact responsibilities in and of themselves. Take the right to vote, for example. You do not have to vote, but for our democracy to stay healthy, you need to vote. See, we have the right to vote, but it is also a responsibility. Would you believe me if I told you that almost half of the nation's voters do not vote? Well, it's true. Other democratic practices given to us in the First Amendment are also responsibilities, such as the right to assemble. Remember that term? Civic associations? Well, protecting democracy is in large part thanks to civic associations. The existence of civic associations, people organizing and assembling together to fight for a cause, is directly dependent upon that First Amendment right to assemble. Actions of groups like these can fuel fires of change and transformation in society. These changes can then spark evolution in our government. Taking part in organizations like these is a major responsibility. Before we wrap up, you need to show what you know. Describe a way in which rights and responsibilities conflict. In your opinion, how should society determine what speech is appropriate and what is not? Time for a recap. Today we learned that rights refer to both constitutional and civil rights, and both of these work together to ensure people can engage society. Responsibilities are norms and behaviors that ensure the public good. Rights and responsibilities often conflict but also overlap in many cases. That's all for us today. In our next lesson, we will analyze the importance of the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 19th Amendments. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember, vote, debate, and participate. Hey!